coming up in this week's episode. So it's being allowed to be yourself without apology or explanation. Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen Villas. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Liberation Effect. Today I'm joined by Jada, who has come to talk about her navigation of her mother's death, who was extremely abusive, and how her mother's part in her father's abuse of her has played out, and whether or not she should be sharing any of that information with her adult children. Jada, is that a good summary? Is that wide enough summary of what you've been going through and what you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think so. I guess it's really for me to feel a bit clearer about what, if anything, I want my children, who are now young adults, both in their early 20s, to know about my past, and also how to come to terms with the feelings that have emerged for me since I went on contact with my mother 4 years ago, and then her death. Yeah, so it's kind of two things really, my children and how to kind of navigate the whole death thing.
Okay, so it's trying to work out what you share with them, what's appropriate, not appropriate, and how you're coping and navigating her death. And how long has it been since she died?
6 months.
Okay, so it's quite new for you.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think is your biggest kind of stumbling block at the moment?
Because I think at the moment I feel so many conflicting things. There's a big part of me that, having spent my whole life hiding even from myself what she was like, and then realising there's an element now that she's not here anymore of kind of wanting to shout from the rooftops. But whilst there is that element, there's also a big element of that's a really scary thing to do. But I also don't feel I can be totally open and honest unless with other people, if my family don't know.
So it feels like, is there an obligation to tell them before you tell anyone else?
No, I don't feel of it as an obligation. It's just more that it's kind of complicated, and I'm not even sure that I do want to tell them. It's kind of trying to sort through what I want, which I guess I don't fully know.
So there's something about you not having had a voice, and so now that she's dead, you've got freedom and you can do what you like with that freedom, but almost having that freedom is confusing and overwhelming because you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. And there's also that element of feeling like I've had all these secrets for so long. I don't want to have them anymore. But I'm also aware that I don't really want to be putting things onto my kids that they don't need to understand, need to know, and I also don't want to feel that I'm then having to kind of, because I would need to be looking out for them then as well, as kind of.
Okay. How do you mean looking out for them?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine myself into them, but there's been, while I feel that it could be helpful for them to understand on one level, on another level, I think it might be quite upsetting for them also.
I think you're right. Two things can be true.
And
so the fear is of upsetting them?
Yeah, and how they deal with that.
How old are they?
21.
Okay, so quite young adults still. Did they have a relationship with your mother?
Unfortunately, yes. And this also is quite complicated because very different ones. Like, one had a very volatile relationship with her and the other couldn't see anything, couldn't see any fault in her, but that one has a very different relationship because she treated them very differently.
Right. So we've got golden child scapegoat scenario?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Which one is golden and which is scapegoat?
Daughter is scapegoat.
She younger or older?
Older.
Okay. I mean, the daughters being scapegoats, as you know, I find regularly that it's the oldest daughter. Not always, of course, and I don't want to deny anyone else's experience, but it's regularly the oldest daughter who is the scapegoat. So she had a volatile relationship. So she knows what your mother could be like in terms of abusiveness, but the other one is not there.
No, but the other one's also on the spectrum, and so everything's very black and white. And whilst he acknowledges that, he kind of explains everything by saying, yeah, but she couldn't help it. She was mentally ill.
Ah, that old chestnut. So she's got to get out because she was mentally ill. What does he qualify as the mental illness?
Well, and he also thinks that only happened in the last sort of 5 years or so. He doesn't see that it was something that the only thing that changed in the last 5 years was that she didn't hide her behaviour so much, because previously she was very covert. Then it became very overt, and she did actually get hospitalised and did actually get given the label of narcissistic personality disorder.
She was diagnosed?
Mm.
Wow, that is a rare thing.
I know.
That is interesting. So she was... Oh, wait, sorry. So she's diagnosed with it. He knows that she's diagnosed with it, but is giving her a get out because...
Because she's diagnosed with it.
She's diagnosed
She can't help it. In his head, she can't help it because she's got a mental illness. It's almost as though she had no control, and so...
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that when you hear that?
Well, it makes me... I find it very difficult because it makes me angry, but I also feel that I can't. I usually say things like, well, she's no different than how she was always, and I will try to... I have given him examples of things she did as a child, to me and my brother as children, and he seems to find it almost incredible. I don't think he believes me. I think part of that is because he's only ever known her as being like an old woman, and so he can't imagine that she was ever anything else. But the other thing he did once say to me was, because my mum was very physically abusive to both of us as children, and so I have given some examples of that to him, but he would say, well, where was your dad? And the thing is that neither of my kids know anything about my dad. He died a long time ago. They never knew him.
Right.
So that in itself is quite difficult for me as well. So there's the whole... I don't mean that he died is difficult for me. It's just that when they suddenly will say things like that, it's difficult for me to know how to respond.
It sounds like it's wounding you every time it comes up in conversation. That when your son takes that position, he's denying your reality.
Yeah.
And once again, you're having to fight to be believed and heard and by your child, who even knows that she has this diagnosis. And the research very clearly shows that there is an intent to cause harm to significant others. And have you shared that with him?
I've tried. He will shut off though, because unfortunately, even though he knows it, he doesn't like to think of her in anything other than in a good way. And it's partly because it's all very complicated to explain without telling the whole story, really. But part of the reason...
You're welcome to share as much as you wish to. And I mean, I obviously know a little bit, and there's nothing to stop you sharing anything you want in this space at all. And again, we can take it out afterwards if you prefer. You know, we can cut bits out. It's not a problem. But if you feel like it'll be helpful for me to hear it so I can help you, then by all means go ahead. And then, yeah, we can cut it later if you'd rather.
Oh, okay. The reason that she got hospitalised and did get that diagnosis was because she took an overdose. But she took an overdose that was completely out of the blue, and she took it after spending the evening alone with my son, and he was 16 at the time.
Ooh. Okay.
And he felt responsible because in his head, he'd spent a couple of hours with his grandmother. She'd gone to bed and taken an overdose, and he's been quite traumatised by that. But because of how he is, he doesn't talk about his feelings. And
right. Carry on. Keep going.
So it's, and in fact, was kind of her doing that was the thing that made me finally go non-contact with her, because it was like the catalyst, because I did visit her in hospital, and she told me, well, I said to her something about, you needed to think about how this would affect the kids. And she just said, well, they're old enough to know this kind of thing happens. And there was no empathy or consideration for him. And he was in bits.
So she takes an overdose. Do you mind sharing what of?
Oral morph.
Right.
Which she'd been stockpiling. It was towards the end of the pandemic, and she nearly died. And she told me, and she initially told the hospital staff that she did it because she was fed up with not being able to have a face-to-face appointment with the doctor or the hospital. She's somebody that she was a real hypochondriac. She did have some genuine medical issues, but she was also convinced that she'd got all sorts of others. And so I know it sounds a mad thing, but this is what she said at the time, was that she took the overdose because she was fed up, that she'd given the NHS 3 weeks to give her a face-to-face appointment. And if they didn't, she was going to take an overdose. And if it killed her, it killed her. And if it didn't, then at least she'd be seeing somebody face-to-face in the hospital. That's
manipulation. That's not... How did she get found? How did she end up at the hospital?
Well, she ended up at the hospital. This is another bit of the story that I actually feel really ashamed of this. But she was a very manipulative person. And 12 years before that, she'd told me that she'd got 2 sorts of cancer and osteoporosis, and that she'd broken her pelvis from this osteoporosis. At that point, we lived 100 miles away from each other, and I was kind of going up and down the motorway. And because she supposedly couldn't do anything because of this broken pelvis, couldn't walk across the room and all the rest of it, she came up with this idea that life would be a lot easier for me, not for her, but for me, if we both sold our houses and moved in together.
Ooh.
You know. And unfortunately, I told my partner this, and fully expecting him to kind of bash it on the head, but he didn't. And he said, well, maybe she's right, you know, you're running yourself ragged doing that, maybe we should. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, if he knows what she's like and he thinks he could live with her, then maybe I need to be a bit more tolerant. Maybe it's me and I'm not tolerant enough. And so... yeah, it's the biggest mistake of my life. It was an absolute nightmare.
Where's the shame? What's the shame about?
Because I feel ashamed that my kids grew up in a household where she was living.
Right, okay. 12 years ago. So they would have been...
When we did it, they were 6 and 9.
Okay, 6 and 9. So, so 12 years before, the overdose.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6 and 9. And then you lived with her for how long?
well, 12 years until she took this overdose. That was the,
Right, okay.
yeah.
Did she actually have cancer?
She did have only one sort, not two, but she didn't. It turned out she didn't have a broken pelvis. That was complete fabrication. I only found that out when she was in hospital, actually, and because she used to claim that it hadn't mended and all of this stuff. And my brother asked the doctor about it because she'd had an X-ray, and he was like, "No, there's nothing on her records. No, she's never done it. No, there's no unhealed fractures."
So she lied.
Yeah, it was all lies.
She
Not
lied.
all, but mostly.
What was the cancer that she did have?
She had breast cancer.
Like a serious,
No.
like obviously cancer
No.
is serious, full stop.
Yeah, but no, she had a
No.
lumpectomy and it was fine.
Did she have chemo, radiotherapy,
No.
any of that?
No, not even radiotherapy.
Are you sure she had breast cancer?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure of anything, really, unless I see it in black and white from a medical source.
Mm.
And this is part of the problem, is that my whole life I've been told various things, and not just about her health, but about various people. And I just don't know. I question everything now, and I feel like I don't really have a kind of a sound base to go from in anything, because I question everything.
I'm not surprised. It's smoke and mirrors. And it's all manipulation to make people do what she wants. She's telling you she's got a broken pelvis. Oh, you should move in with me. Like we should sell houses and move in together. Your partner says, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Maybe we should. Because empathy, right? You know, people hear about someone struggling and feel a sense of duty or obligation because we're conditioned not just in that kind of microcosm of our own family upbringing, but also socially. You know, what kind of a person doesn't go and look after their disabled, fragile parent? Like, that's a terrible thing, right? Mm-hmm. But that disabled, fragile parent is A, lying, and B, really manipulative and abusive. And so, yeah, there's that part of it. I just wanted to point out, when your partner said, you know, maybe we should, and you thought, oh, I should really be more tolerant and I must be the problem and all those things. What happened there was their context of your mother was as an adult with agency, autonomy, being able to put boundaries in, being able to say no and not fear the retribution. They don't have the emotional connection that you would have had, the kind of the attachment drive, if you like, of being the child of anybody, not just her, but a child. A child is always driven to connect to the caregiver, the parent. They didn't have all that context. So when they said, you know, maybe it'll be all right, with the knowledge of how your mother could behave, they weren't using a lifetime of trauma history to inform that decision. The reason they could find that tolerable was because they weren't impacted in the same way you were. And it wasn't their mother. Right?
Mm-hmm. Whereas I was just coming from it, from the angle of, well, if he thinks he could put up with her and she isn't even his mother, then, you know, I was coming from it from a completely different place.
Yeah, that the relationship should make you more tolerable than he is because, okay. So then you kind of gaslight yourself into thinking you're the problem again and that you have to just suck it up. And you talk about being ashamed because you took your children. And that's tricky, you know, because she was difficult. So what was it like for them then in that space, in that growing up in that house?
For them, see, I tried. She actually wasn't very interested in them, was the good thing. In some respects. I mean, I know that's not good, but in other respects it was.
No, I get it.
She didn't like children. She was very clear about that. But so it was, she had a distant relationship with both, I would say. Mm-hmm. And in fact, even, you see, at this point, I didn't really remember. Well, I didn't have the knowledge that she was narcissistic, and I didn't really remember a lot of the things that had happened to me. And that was all kind of buried deep away. But I think I had a gut knowledge that I knew that they shouldn't. I didn't want her to be alone with them. And,
Right.
and I think you could probably say it happened about 3 times that she was alone with them, by which time they were like maybe like teenagers or whatever.
Right.
So like there wasn't. So there was that side of her. I knew that she wasn't somebody I wanted them to be around, but I'd moved them to live with her.
Okay. So, are they upset with you for living with her?
They're not, actually.
Right. That's really important.
Mm.
What is it that you're shaming yourself for if they're not?
I suppose it's because now I have this knowledge that I didn't have at the time.
Okay, so you're judging your younger
Yeah.
self with the
Yeah.
knowledge you have now.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard me talk about that, Jada?
Mhm.
And what do I always say?
Well, it's not fair to do that.
It's really not fair. And the reason being that you collude with the abuse.
Mm.
That version of you was totally manipulated, didn't have any of the knowledge you have now, thought that she was the problem, couldn't remember half of the stuff that would have informed that decision better, and her partner was saying, yeah, it's a good idea.
Mm.
Maybe she just did what she thought was best with what she had there, and then. What's happening right now?
Yeah, I know I am quite hard on myself about it. So it feels a bit, I don't know. Hearing you say that makes me kind of feel like, yeah, I should be kinder to myself really about it.
Even that feels a bit like you're being judgy of yourself, right? Because it's the irony of they're like, I should be kinder to myself about it. And then it's like, I'm beating this person up because I'm not being kinder to that person, right? And maybe it's just kind of going, I'm glad I hold myself accountable, but I don't have to shame myself.
Mm.
I can understand that my actions may have hurt my children, and they may need to hold that to me at some point. But I did what I did with the knowledge I had at the time, and I thought it was the best choice. And I did everything I could to protect them from her, because she was never left alone with them, other than when they were able to speak for themselves, when they were big enough to do that. Right?
Yeah.
So actually, that version of you, in all those parameters she was operating in, did really well to manage. She protected them. If they've not got a problem with it, and it may be later in life they kind of go, actually, that wasn't great, and and you go, yeah, fair play, that's absolutely valid, and I'm sorry, and I shouldn't have done it. If I'd have known now, then what I know now, I absolutely wouldn't have done. It doesn't justify what I did, and it doesn't take away your pain. But my job was to protect you, and I didn't do that as well as I could have done in that moment.
Yeah.
And I recognise it, right? So you can own it. You can explain a little bit without kind of dismissing their feelings about it. But just validating that kind of upset they might have about it is the most important thing. So that shaming of yourself when nobody else seems to be doing that around you.
Yeah, that's true.
It feels like a sort of self-flagellation, almost. Yeah? Does that ring true for you?
I think so. But I also think it's because the people around me aren't doing it, but then they don't know everything.
Ah, so if they have all the information, then they're going to be really annoyed with you. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. What is it that is going to change how they view you and that decision?
I think my problem is that I feel that, and this is my kids I'm talking about, that they wouldn't believe that I didn't remember.
Okay,
I think
but
I'm more.
Okay, go on.
I think I'm more thinking of my son, just because even when I've talked to him about some physical abuse, I get the feeling he doesn't believe me. And
So I'm going to logic this with you a little minute. So, just for a second, you share with him this information about your childhood and the abuse that was done to you, and he doesn't believe you. And he doesn't believe that you didn't remember, but he doesn't believe that you were actually abused at all, that it wasn't as bad, or, why would he have any why would he have any concern then about you moving in with your mother? Because if he doesn't believe it doesn't happen, then he had nothing to be fearful of or angry about that you did it.
yeah, I suppose so.
Right?
Yeah.
There's something happening with you and your son around his belief of you. And I wonder if you are open to just exploring that a little bit, because it feels like that might be what's at the crux of what's happening for you at the moment. Because your daughter, we have not even talked about other than her age, and that she was the scapegoat of your mother. So it seems to be that this dilemma is focused on him and your relationship with him.
Yeah, because he had a very different relationship with her than anybody else. And he's quite protective of her almost.
Is there anywhere is there anyone, rather, that he reminds you of in relationship to your mother? Anybody else you've seen that kind of relationship with her before?
Well, she was more like that with my brother.
Right.
But my brother didn't fall for it. My brother emotionally distanced himself from her from childhood, really.
Okay.
But she was... Yeah, my brother didn't fall for it. I did, I guess. Yeah, so maybe he's more like me. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, is there something about if you can convince him, you're almost convincing yourself?
Maybe.
Okay. You're allowed to say, no, Helen, you got that completely wrong. You're up the wrong tree. Don't just... No,
Yeah, I know.
Okay, good.
It's just that I think there is very much an element of, you see, for me, I always knew I didn't have a good childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't blocked out that I was sexually abused by my dad as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I had therapy in that in my early 20s, and then I felt, rightly or wrongly, that I'd not got over it, but that I was kind of okay, that it was all kind of, and I didn't, I don't know where I'm going with this now.
Something about seeing yourself in your son
Oh, yeah, about the kind of minimising it, really. I think that even like maybe 10 years ago.
Do you need me to ground you a moment? Okay, let's have a look. Can you tell me, there's some pictures on your wall next to you. What are in those pictures? How many are there actually beside you on that wall?
3.
3. What are they of?
Like hills and trees and stuff.
Is there anywhere in particular, somewhere familiar that you've been?
Yeah, this big one is like my great aunt left it to me, but it's of the South Downs near where she used to live.
Where are the South Downs? I always hear that, and I can never remember where they are.
It's like out the back of Brighton, Sussex.
Oh, okay. And so, is that somewhere you used to go? Have you been there?
We used to live there.
Oh, right, okay. And with your aunt, sorry, your aunt gave you the picture, and is she somebody that you were close to?
My great aunt, I was.
Yeah, she was special. And what kind of colouring is the picture?
Mostly greens and a bit of light blue.
What's your favourite thing about it?
It's kind of soft and gentle.
Soft and gentle. That's a nice way to describe a painting. Is it is it oil paint or is it?
Yeah, I think it's oil paint, yeah.
Yeah. And how long have you had that for?
Oh, probably 15 years.
Oh, so it's been a staple. And is it always sitting next to you there? Are you in your kitchen right now?
No, I'm not. I'm in that,
right.
it's like a home office kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time in there?
When I work from home.
Yeah. And so it's right next to you when you're working from home. And what does it make you feel when you look at it?
Calmer.
Calmer. How are you feeling now?
All right.
Sure? We can keep going? We can pause?
It's okay.
Okay. If you need to pause, we can absolutely take a breather, and that's not a problem. Okay. All right. Do me a favour and just put your feet on the floor flat. Have you got arms on your chair?
No, unfortunately not.
What are you sitting on?
I like a really rubbishy office chair.
A rubbishy office chair, like with one of those ones with no arms that are like, oh no, Jada. Okay, is it material that you're sitting on, or is it leather? What kind of, I say material, but like, is it fabric or is it?
Yeah, fabric.
What colour is the fabric?
Black.
And if you touch it, is it sort of scratchy? Is it nice, nasty? What kind of texture is it?
It's a bit scratchy. It's not particularly pleasant, but felt worse.
I felt worse. If you were going to compare it to something so that I could know what it would feel like to touch, what would that be?
The only thing that's coming to mind is like a really old-fashioned sort of tent. I don't know why I'm thinking of that.
Okay, cool, no worries. And so when you're looking at the material, is there any pattern on it, or is it just plain, or is it like threads, or?
It's just plain, but with like the occasional sort of dimple bit into it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, no,
like
I don't.
Like with a butt.
Oh, okay. Is it comfy or not comfy?
No, not really.
And may I ask why you hold on to it, Jada?
Yeah, that's a good question. It needs answering.
Yeah. Is there something there about you not feeling like you're entitled to a nice chair to sit on?
I think it was more about that it's not a very big space and this one fits in, rather than the more comfortable ones might be a bit of a struggle to fit into the space.
Okay. Is that an assumption or is that a knowledge?
Probably needs re-evaluating.
Might be a case of measuring to see if you could get a nicer chair in.
Yeah.
How would it feel to have a nicer chair?
But it would make it more pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Okay. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, I'm okay.
So, feeling okay to carry on now?
Yeah.
All right. So, where were we? We were talking about some stuff that was becoming really difficult, obviously. And we were looking at how much of yourself you see in your son, whether or not convincing him is somehow convincing yourself. And then you were talking about some therapy that you'd had in your 20s.
Yeah, I think where I was going with all of this was that I then lived until 4 years ago. I lived kind of without really. I didn't know anything about narcissism. I didn't realise I knew there was something wrong with my mother,
Mm.
but because I was stuck in this nightmare of living with her, not couldn't see a way out of it or anything way of it ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
So my life was walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around, trying to keep the peace between her and everybody else in the house, trying to avoid her as much as possible. And I think that I also, if anybody had ever said anything to me, I would, or even to myself, I would have minimised how bad my childhood was. It was like, yeah, no, I know it wasn't good, but could have been a lot worse kind of a thing. Or I just wouldn't really think about it. Whereas now, like almost as soon as I realised that actually, it probably couldn't have been much worse. It was, and so it's, I think I still feel quite shocked myself that some of the things that I went through, and maybe there's a bit of me that's still trying to catch up and like doesn't want it to be true. I don't know.
So there's some grief sort of still sitting there that's quite overwhelming potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Your son, I'm going to try a little tool with you, which is a sort of decision-making tool. And because it's almost like you want to tell them, but you don't want to tell them, but you want to tell them because to not tell them means they don't know you and they don't know your experience. And then your son maybe keeps adding to the paper cuts by denying how bad it was for you.
Yeah, and my daughter triggers me quite a bit.
All right. Okay, then let's pause what I was thinking of. Let's go to that for a moment. Your daughter triggers you quite a bit. What's that about? What's going on there?
Only, I don't mean deliberately. It's just that her personality, she's quite fiery. She's quite sassy. There's a bit of me that really admires her for being who she is. She won't take any nonsense, but she will also be somebody that if she's had a bad day, she'll come in stomping about and everybody has to know about it. Right. And I find that very difficult. I don't like conflict. I don't like, it's just difficult for me.
What happened there? I don't like conflict. And then you went to say something and then you stopped yourself and then you said, I don't like conflict. It's difficult for me.
Well, I guess it reminds me of how my mum was.
Okay, so when your daughter's grumpy and communicating that through her behaviour, it's triggering you into remembering your mum and her behaviour. How old do you feel in those moments when your daughter's behaving that way?
Probably about 5.
What was going on when you were 5?
I was being sexually abused by my dad, and my mum was punishing me for that.
Jada, I'm so sorry. Why was she punishing you?
She's just very messed up person.
I mean, clearly.
Yeah.
Often what we can see in these situations is that the wife can become jealous of the child that is being abused.
Yeah, I think it was that. She used to like call me names, and there would always be this. You know, she didn't want to have anything. She would tell people that her understanding of genetics seemed to be that you could have a child but actually have nothing to do with them genetically whatsoever, because that's kind of what she used to say. So she used to, you know, if we were out and we met people, and if anybody ever complimented me on anything, she would say, "Oh, she doesn't anything like me. She's just like her father." She would even carry like this really, really ancient photograph of some great-great-grandparent or something like that, which to me, who apparently I was the spitting image of because he was on my dad's side, whereas I've had nothing to do with her. She didn't want anything to do with me.
So she denied her genetic contribution to you?
Yeah. Yeah, because my brother, of course, was exactly like her, and I was nothing like her.
And what, I'm just out of interest, like, how long ago are we talking? Like, would she have had would the knowledge have been readily available to her? Like, would that be a common knowledge thing?
Right. Yeah, but it was just what she chose to believe.
So her thing was, it's ironic, isn't it? You see on all the like groups and stuff for children of narcissistic mothers particularly, that they call, they remove the word mother and call their parent, their female parent, birth giver or incubator or egg donor or thing, and in this situation, she's literally saying that's what she was. She was nothing other than an incubator, birth giver. I also notice in that the constant rejection, the like over and over and over again, you're nothing to do with me, you're nothing to do with me, you're nothing to do with me.
Unless it was something that suited her. So if I did well at something, then I would be. But
of course, that old chestnut, like, geez. So, her behaviour to you is total denial of anything that is autonomous, i.e. not from her, shaming of anything that's like your father, ownership of anything that is good, that she can claim as her, that's given you that, and then at the same time punishing you for your father's abuse of you. So she knew he was abusing you sexually, and she did nothing to stop it.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a reason why she didn't?
Well, she would never have had a conversation with me about it. And in fact, she would do the opposite, in that even as an adult, if there was ever anything on the news about child sexual abuse, she would almost seek me out to try to have a hideous conversation about it, in which she would, like, come down with the, they should all be hung kind of arguments. But because she would have made up this notion in her head, and it would almost get to the point. So obviously I used to try to avoid any kind of conversation about anything like that, but she would pursue it, and then somehow you would find that she was then saying things like, "Oh, so you think it's all right, do you?" You would get, everything would be twisted the other way. So you would be somehow find yourself in the complete opposite of what you thought, what you felt. And I don't know, she was just unbelievable at manipulation and also unbelievable at making up things that she would then believe herself.
I'm so, there's so many thoughts in my head of like, first of all, furiously angry for you. Just how dare she position herself as the saviour and you as the villain in the war against paedophilia, child sexual abuse. That is beyond outrageous, disgusting, obnoxious, like all of the horrible, horrible things. And then I go to the kind of, so you've never had your reality validated, ever, by somebody who was there?
Only, not as regards her, but my brother, yes, he knew that my dad sexually abused me. I told him once when I was like in my 20s, and he said that he knew.
How did that feel when you found out he knew?
It did feel validating, and it's only very recently that, see, my brother says he wasn't abused. I don't think he was by my dad, but it wouldn't surprise me if he had been by my mum. But he, until very recently, he's also always blocked everything out. And it's only literally since she died that I've heard, well, he said to my daughter a few weeks ago, and I couldn't believe it. I walked back into the room to hear him saying, your mum and I actually had a terrible childhood. I didn't realise it at the time. You just think it's normal. But I realise now that it really, really wasn't normal at all. And we really had a terrible childhood. And I just couldn't believe it because I'd never heard him talk like that, ever. Because he would normally, if I ever said anything to him, he would just say, oh, I don't really remember. But now, yeah.
So he, for the first time ever, you hear him sharing your experience. I'm coming back to you and your son and your daughter. Is there any part with your daughter where she's behaving that way, she's behaving in a way that you would have been annihilated for, and you're terrified you're going to be in trouble?
I think that's what I find difficult about it, is that she often behaves in ways that I would have been annihilated for. And although there's a part of me that admires her for that, I find it difficult. Yeah, I think that could well be it.
And then on top of that, you feel responsible for making her feel better? Is there any part of that going on too?
I think I feel there's this big kind of like, I need to keep the peace part of me, that like I need to calm it down. I need to calm her down.
You have to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's your job to fix it. So we've got multi-layered things going on, right?
Mm.
Is there any part of you that feels like it's directed at you?
Yes, and sometimes I'm aware that I will almost have a trauma response to her. That, like, especially like if I was in the kitchen, which is quite a narrow room, if she comes in, I will feel trapped. If she comes in a mood, I will feel trapped and like, I need to get away. If she's in that kind of a frame of mind.
Right. You ever
and
talked
that's
about
not
it with
helpful.
her?
I have. This is one of the things that is a little bit difficult, because on one occasion I did have a conversation with her and she was still in a bit of a mood when I had this conversation, so it probably wasn't the best time. But I said, I find it really triggering when you're like this. And she that word triggering seemed to do something to her, and she went, really went off on one and was kind of, I don't even know what that means, but whatever you do, don't tell me. You see, I've always thought that there's a part of her that does know, or that can tell that something, that there is something else in my history, because she will often say things to me like, well, you never talk about your dad, or I don't have any sense of him at all as a person. She'll say things like that, and I will always try to kind of push it away or
Not even
deflect
say
it.
something like, yeah, he wasn't a very nice man. There's nothing really I want you to
I
have a
do.
sense of.
I'd say things like, oh, he wasn't around very much, is what I usually say.
Okay, but that's still quite vague.
Yes, no, yeah.
That's still not giving her a sense of the
Mm,
man.
mm. I just find it too difficult to give a sense without. I will say things like he was better than her, which is what I believe. That's how I feel.
Right,
He was
right.
better than her.
Okay.
Only in as much as, and I know you can't take the abuse out of the equation, but if you did, the rest of the time he was more like a normal person. He was more like, he was somebody that took an interest in what you were doing or what you were interested in, or you as a person, and he wasn't violent, and he would stop her if she was. So he was more of I felt, neither of them were any good, but he was just slightly better.
I get it. There was something very devastating because it felt like you were going to say he was the safe parent.
Well, out of the two, yeah.
Yeah. And yet he was sexually abusing you, which goes to show just how bad your mother's behaviour was.
Hmm.
Okay. When it comes to your daughter, in fact, both of them, it's really interesting because it's almost like there's a mirror situation for them. We talked about the fact that there's so many lies your mother's told, from the cancer to the, all of the different things that she's told total lies about. All of those things that she's told all these lies about have left you with this completely unreliable foundation. It's shifting sands. It's those mats on the water. You see when people they put those mats on the sea to go to the boat and stuff, and they look ridiculous because you're like, woo, and they're all moving, and it's like, how is it possible to stay steady on one of those things?
Yeah,
How could
that's
you
exactly what
ever?
it's like, yeah.
Right? Because you've not got the information that you need to feel anchored on firm ground. But your children don't either. All they know is that there's a monster in the cupboard, but they don't know what the monster looks like. They don't know. They know there's something lurking. And it could be that it's actually a really cool thing, but it could be that it's a really, really evil thing and they do not know. And so there's this kind of similar experience of not having the steady ground. Make sense, do you think?
Yeah, well, then that feeds a little bit into my feelings of guilt of like, how have I managed to do this? And like, now I haven't given them a steady ground.
Well, because you were trying to protect them, first of all. And you're right not to have shared this information with them. It's not appropriate for them to have known this. And again, I'm not even sure where the line might be now. And I think that's something that you will only know as you discuss it. And you say there's going to be lines and I want you to kind of know where you want to stop. And I can't tell you without telling you, but we'll come to that in a moment, how you navigate that. But the difference is you weren't doing this to wound them or control them or manipulate them. You were trying to protect them. The problem is, the only thing is that it would have been enough to say he was not a very nice man and that's why I don't talk about him. For them to be able, from a young age, not all people who are parents should be parents. Those kind of things, like where you're not disclosing the full information. And I do wonder if there's a thing for you with as so many of the people that grow up in these systems are, is that if I tell you anything, I have to tell you the whole thing. And actually, I'm really bad because I'm keeping these secrets. And I'm not allowed to have secrets. I'm not allowed to have privacy. I have to share absolutely everything. Otherwise, I'm being secretive and I'm doing it to make you excluded and to have power over you and to, you know, trick you and manipulate you.
I think the thing is, if I had said to my daughter, he wasn't a very nice man, she wouldn't have left it at that. She would have wanted to know more. And then I wouldn't have known how to answer.
And you'd have said, that's all I'm prepared to talk about at this point.
But then she would have kept coming back to it.
And I appreciate now it's different. You wouldn't be able to do it now. But I mean, you can actually do this now. Sorry, it's just that you didn't know this then.
Yeah.
But you could have said things like, that's all I'm prepared to talk about. It's not appropriate for me to share any more information. Maybe when you're older, I will. But right now, this is as much as I want to share. And if they push, I've said no. There is no more discussion of this. This is not a negotiation. You're not entitled to information just because you want it. Right? And the same is true now. You can still do that now and hold the boundary. And the phrase I use with my little pickle, who, God love her, is somebody also that was like, but why, is I've answered the question, I'm not discussing it any further. And then I just stop talking. There's no, I don't, yeah, but why won't you tell me? I've answered the question, I'm not discussing it further. Go and play or go and do, whatever. But now you're at a place where this is about what you want to share, what you think's important. And I suppose really is, we might come back to those questions I always ask about breaking no contact with, what will it cost you? What will you gain? And will it change any outcome? So let's start actually with, what would be the point of sharing that information? What would be the goal of sharing the info?
I guess the goal would be that they would understand more. That would be my hope, but I don't know if that's necessarily a goal because I can't guarantee it. But that they would understand more why I might behave in certain ways or why I might find certain things difficult.
Okay. So the goal would be for them to understand and know you better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And know you better. And if they have that, what does that then mean for you? What does that give you if they know that, understand and know you better?
What does that give to me? I want to say freedom, but I don't know how that's...
What freedom does it give you?
Oh, just freedom to sort of not to have all these kind of secrets, just to be.
There's something about it being a relief.
Yeah.
If they know and understand, then I'm allowed to react the way I need to react, or I can say what I need to say, and I can ask for a need to be met or a boundary to be respected or a difference in the relationship. And I can relax in my home and just be who I am.
Yeah.
I don't have to put up masks and shields and hide from everybody.
Yeah.
So it's being allowed to be yourself without apology or explanation. If you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe it's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye.
Well, I mean, I still might need to apologise if I did something wrong.
Of course, well, that's appropriate, but like not having to justify yourself and your existence all the time.
Yeah. But one thing I am a bit aware of, though, is that I feel that or at least there's a bit of me that feels that perhaps I haven't processed enough myself yet before thinking about talking to them.
Okay.
That maybe, because basically, like I said, I was kind of, everything was blocked out for me until 4 years ago. Then everything kind of came and smacked me in the face. And I think since she's died, there's been a little bit more of that. So what I wouldn't like to do is to start, although there's this big yearning to be open and honest, there's also a bit of a, well, supposing, 6 months down the line I don't feel that way anymore, or maybe it won't be so important to me if I've processed it all a bit more, or I don't know, I'm just trying to show the other side of it as well.
So the fear is that you reveal something that you don't actually want or need to reveal.
Yeah.
Because if you've worked on it, it won't be so big.
Well, it's never going to be small, is it? But
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
It won't be all consuming.
Yeah.
But it will still be part of your actual life experience. So if I use myself as an example in terms of recovery and sharing any kind of experiences I've had as a child, I do that with people, new people, in a kind of just like, this is getting to know me, but not in a, here's why I behave the way I do, which is why I used to do it, right? Because it would be like, this is why I'm a bit cray-cray, right? Back in the 15, 20 years ago times when I was not working and I didn't know why I was the way I was and all those things. But having done so much work on it, now it's just a part of who I am, but it doesn't sort of define or justify or excuse any behaviour. I'm still accountable, I'm still this, that and the other. But if you're going to know me, you should know that there is this history, right? Just like with my dad dying when I was 19. That's a huge thing that happened. It doesn't define me, but it did shape parts of me, right? So there's a knowing of each other in it, when someone who shares any story, like what school they went to or what, whether they travelled as a child. It's just part of your story rather than justification or sort of excusing certain sort of trauma behaviour, coping mechanisms, right? As in fear of conflict. And you're sharing now, you're right to be really considered about it. But it does sound a little bit like a good reason not to, because I don't actually want to. I'm really scared of doing it and what it's going to mean and how it's going to impact and how they'll look at me from it. And I'm really worried that it's actually going to be really awful and they're going to reject it and then I'm going to have to, right? So it's quite a good, and I say this with very inverted commas, excuse not to tell them. And again, I want to come back to reminding you, you don't have to share every nitty-gritty piece of information.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of it.
Okay. But even if they ask, you don't have to share that, right?
No. Yeah.
So the goal for sharing this information would be to understand, for them to understand and know you better, to be able to allow you to be free in your home and relationship to them and with them. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then I'm intrigued, actually, because that feels like a little sidebar to boundaries with your daughter. And I want to know what they're like, because you just said, like, she'll push and push and push and she won't let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But people only push and push and push if they know someone's eventually going to go kind of give in, or they think they can make them give in. So is that pattern there with her?
Play. Well, a little bit, maybe. I think, I don't know, I find it amazing that they seem to have turned out into kind of normal human beings, ostensibly, really, bearing in mind, you know, we had no role models to go on. So I'm sure we made lots of mistakes, I'm sure.
But they're still good people?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Then my question would be about when she's in those moods, when she's got home from work and she's had a bad day and she's grumping, how easy would it be for you to say, babe, I'm sorry you've had a bad day, but you're affecting the entire house the way you're behaving right now. What do you need to kind of shift gear into a better mood? And if she's like, okay, I can't be around that because it really affects me. Right? So I can help you get out of the mood, or you need to take the mood away from me.
Yeah, I have tried.
Right.
And I think I've had some partial success. Yeah.
What are you not saying? What's happening?
Partially not successful as well, I think.
When you say partial, are you minimising right now?
Yeah.
How badly it affects you? Right, okay. So her moods are really impacting you.
But they can be. I mean, it's weird because, like, I'd say 97% of the time, she's absolutely lovely and we get on really well. And I actually think we're quite close. Well, and this is another thing that I find really difficult. It's nice, but I find it difficult, is that she does talk to me about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I have no experience of that because I was trying never, ever to talk to my mother about anything because she would always hijack it or make it, if it was something good, she'd turn it into something terrible or whatever. So I don't have that experience, whereas my daughter is very open, and if there's something, whatever she's feeling, she'll tell you pretty much everything. And I find that difficult, and I don't know how much that's me, or at the same time, I'm pleased she's like that. I'm pleased she feels able to be like that. But at the same time, it feels almost threatening to me. And there's a bit of me that's like, should she be doing that? Is that normal? Because I don't know what normal is, because I haven't got those kind of parameters.
Yeah. This is one of the things that people never really talk about when you become a parent after having, abusive parents, is that it can be really confusing that your children like you. Like, it's so disorientating because all of a sudden there are these humans treating you like a human, that they think you're great and they want to be with you and spend time with you. And it's almost triggering because it's like, what is wrong with you? Why do you like me? Because don't forget, there's going to have been a seed planted that anyone that likes you is probably flawed themselves. There's something wrong with them, right? So that will put us off people who are kind to us, who are nice to us. Like, anyone who is friendly in a healthy way will be like, what's wrong with you? There's something that's got to be, you're really weird because you like me. And we won't even know that's what's happening. right? So when our children like us, it's like, what are you doing? Like, this is odd. You're not meant to like me.
Mm.
And I don't know how to deal with that. Because A, you like me, which is just a foreign thing anyway. And B, I'm your parent. Why do you want to be around me? That's not normal. And it's really difficult. And there's such a huge amount of grief in it. Because in their liking and loving of us, the deficit, the loss of what we did not have, is just magnified with like the Hubble telescope. It suddenly becomes so very clear of what we did not get. And again, can be triggering that grief when we are exposed to their like friendliness, their love, their liking of us, that they do want to tell us everything. And you see it as risk because you're triggered and your brain is going, don't do that, it's dangerous, there's going to be bad things happen, that's going to be weaponized against you in some way. Don't do it, right? So your brain is screaming warning signals. And in that moment, what you could do and what you could say to your little brain, which is little you, sorry, not little brain, that was not how that was meant to sound, but your brain that is acting as little you, is you can say to it, it's okay, this is what it was meant to be like, and it's dreadful that we did not have this. Right? You can reassure yourself in those moments. The same as when she's in those grumpy moods of saying to your younger self, it's all right, she's in a mood, that's her job to sort out. We are not responsible for fixing that. And therefore, we will be okay. Right? And in a minute, if she doesn't sort it out, I'm going to ask her to take it to her room unless she wants something practical to help her. Because what we're not going to do is emotionally abandon her in her grumpiness, but we're also going to say, when you're behaving this way in the age you are, this is not appropriate. You are creating an atmosphere, you're affecting everyone in the house. And that's not okay. You're allowed to be annoyed, you're allowed to vent, you're allowed to grump, but you have to make sure that you're doing it in a healthy way rather than a way that is just making everyone uncomfortable, because that's controlling, that's domination, and that is not okay. That's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. How would that feel to say to her?
Yeah, now that feels okay.
Okay, good. And again, you're right. Having those conversations when somebody's still in that state is not the time to be doing it. It's when they're regulated and calm and saying, hey, I know you don't mean it. And I know you probably aren't aware, but this is what the effect of that behaviour is. And we're all in this space. And I don't mind you being grumpy, but I do mind you affecting everyone. And so let's work out a way for you to kind of cope with that or be able to get through that feeling so that it's not affecting everyone. So it's collaborative, supportive, that you're not shaming it, you're not judging it, but you are holding her accountable. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to these questions as we're coming to the end of our time together. And it feels like it's something about the freedom, as we've said, or you said, about being yourself in your space, but just being. That if people know that this was your experience, and children aside, like everybody, if people around you knew that this was your life experience at the hands of your parents, you wouldn't have to hide anymore. And you wouldn't be protecting them anymore.
Yeah.
How angry does it make you that you might be protecting them by not sharing that information?
Protecting who, sorry?
Your parents.
Yeah, furious.
Furious. So it seems like you no longer want to protect them, but you're stuck between not protecting them and protecting your children.
Mm.
And then on top of that, the added complication of your son's perception. And there's a very, very easy answer to, well, she had a mental health condition, she couldn't help it. You can say, but we can still hold her accountable. And mental health is not a justification to be abusive at all, in any way, shape or form.
Mm.
It does not matter why she did it. She did it. And it hurt you. It doesn't mean you don't get to be hurt just because she had a mental health condition. How do you feel to say that to him?
Yeah, no, that's a good... My problem is always that in the heat of the moment, I can never think of the right thing to say.
Okay, so the thing for that then, do you have a device like a phone? Do you have that close to hand quite often?
Yeah.
So one of the things that you can do is write these out into your notes app or like something. You could screenshot it, put it as your screensaver, so it's literally there and you just go, bloop, and then you've got, oops, throwing everything over. And then you've got it right there to hand, right? The other thing is that you just leave it in the notes app so that you know, oh, we're having this conversation, I'm just going to get my notes because it helps me. And you share that with him. Just say, every time we have these conversations, I find it really difficult because I feel like you're asking me to justify why I'm hurt by her abusing me. And that feels very, very unfair on me. Right? Just that on its own. And, you know, then maybe something around validating his experience of her in that I know that she didn't do this to you, and it's really hard to concede that she might be that person with me and that person with you. It doesn't change who she was to you, but it doesn't change who she was to me either.
Mm.
Do you think he would cope with that?
I think
thinking?
part of the problem with that is that he, you see, ostensibly in his lifetime, or what he remembers, is that she was okay with me, or so that's what he would think. Because,
have you got examples where she wasn't at all?
yeah, oh yeah, loads.
In front of him?
Possibly not.
Okay. And so then you say, yeah, I did everything I could to protect you from her behaviour. And I'm glad I did that. And clearly I succeeded because you obviously don't have a point of reference.
Mm.
I think it's about... There's the thing with the autism of the black and white. And maybe it depends, obviously, I don't know anything about his neurotype and how that his traits manifest, other than the black and white thinking you've said is it seems quite rigid, is that right?
Yeah.
So in that, does he cope well with like visual representation?
Yeah.
So if you were to have something like, this is going to sound weird, but like I can't decide what to choose, a banana or a piece of bread so a banana that is yellow on one side and brown on the other.
Yes.
Or a piece of bread that is toasted on one side and still bread on the other.
Right.
And say to him, so can you see that this is both brown and yellow, or raw and toasted? The two things can coexist. They can both be true.
Yeah, I see what you're guessing at, yeah.
Like giving him a kind of visual image of what we're talking about in that kind of nuance of the human experience and behaviour.
Mm.
How on board with his autism diagnosis is he?
Not at all.
Ah, right. So that was I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah, not surprised. Okay. So You're swimming upstream a little bit. I suppose it's just the thing of, I know you don't see this. You can validate his position, say, I understand that you don't see that, and I'm actually really pleased that you don't. But I'm going to ask you to stop trying to get me to justify it. You know, just saying to, again, boundary, just saying, I'm going to accept your version of her, and I'm just going to ask you to just allow mine.
Mm.
Right? Not to keep dismissing it. If that's what he does. Is that what he does? Is that what it feels like when he's...
I mean, he doesn't talk... Well, the thing is, nobody really talks about her in this house, except for him. And he doesn't talk much, but he will just... I don't know, he'll just sort of say, oh, that was Grandma's, or Grandma did this, or I don't know, in a way, as though... And everybody else is always kind of like... Yeah, and nobody ever says anything. And I think from his perspective, it must be quite isolating, I suppose, in a way, because nobody else feels the same way or
talks about her with him.
Yeah.
And so actually he's grieving her loss.
Yeah.
And nobody else is kind of going, yeah, that's really bad. They're all going, ding dong,
Thank God.
Witch is dead, yeah. So he's determinedly and rigidly holding on to this version of her to keep his memory of her alive.
I think so. But it's not a realistic... The memory he has of her is from when he was much younger, and he's idealised it. It's not like, because there have been times, like I went no contact 4 years ago, he still had occasional contact with her. Literally, he saw her twice in 4 years. But she wrote him a letter one time, and it was a horrible letter. And he was really upset and phoned me straight away and sent me a copy of the letter and everything because he was really upset by it. But again, although that was his instant reaction, and I'm glad it was his instant reaction, was to tell me that she'd sent this awful letter, he then kind of explained it to himself again. Oh, she couldn't help it. She was ill when she wrote that letter. And
so it's very important to him that he holds on to this version of her.
Yeah.
There's something I just want to challenge you then about around that, the language you just used there of his idealised version of her. Just be mindful where you're dismissing his experience, because you're both doing the same thing in that. In if you're in that space, right? If you're saying his version of her isn't real, but it's real to him.
Yeah.
Your version of her is real to you. Both are valid. You can both have different versions. Neither of you get to deny the other. If he comes to it, if he's this, what he's stuck in is that kind of fantasy bond, cognitive dissonance. He doesn't want to believe that she was that person for whatever reason. And I mean, I'd need a lot longer to kind of try and unravel that with you. And so, because he wants to believe that, every time you challenge it, he's going to dig his heels in further. And if we're dealing with cognitive dissonance, which I think we are, which is the idea that even with all the facts in front of us, we will deny them to be able to maintain the image of this person. So you see this a lot in relationships where somebody cheats. The person who has been cheated on will blame the other person. Well, they tempted my partner, they did this, they did that, to be able to maintain the image of this person that they love and adore because they don't want to lose it. It's to avoid grief, essentially. We deny the facts to maintain a reality we want to cling on to, right? And the worst thing you can do if someone is in that place is go, yeah, but you are Delulu, they aren't that person at all. Because all that does is force them to defend that person more. Right?
Right. Yeah.
We see this in emotional, in abusive relationships
Yeah.
all the time. If you say they're an idiot and you deserve better, very often what will happen is like, oh no, you just don't understand them, and the victim is immediately into defense, right? Because they do not want to let go of whatever it is. So they have to get to it. It's, the whole horse to water. You can't force them to drink, right? So instead of kind of challenging his perception, just validate it, right? Just validate it. But then also say, and I'm going to respect your version of her, but I'm going to ask you to do the same thing for me. And I don't need to tell you anything you don't want to know. But my version is what I had, and you had a different version of her. And I'm glad you had that. The more you fight him, the more he will defend and the more he will dig his heels in, especially if he's autistic and there's PDA going on in there too, right? So when it comes now to talking to them about your childhood, what are you feeling and thinking now?
I think what you've just said, I think that is really valid. I hadn't thought like that. It very much is that cognitive dissonance thing. And
Right.
yeah, I think that's really helpful because up until now, although I've only dipped my toe in the water, every time I dip my toe in the water, I've been pushed away very firmly. So that is quite helpful,
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We're coming to the end of our time, and I just want to go back and look at the goals that you set at the beginning in terms of having clarity and kind of knowing how to broach this with your children. How are you feeling about that now?
I'm feeling better about that. I feel like there's you've given me some ideas and something to think about.
Is there anything else that we haven't managed to answer or do, or anything else you need from me?
Well, I mean, the other thing was the whole minefield, really, of like the coming to terms with the death side of it. But I don't think that's anything that can happen quickly.
Well, I suppose the thing that I'm always struck by when it comes to grief around the narcissistic parent is very often we're grieving what we didn't have, what we experienced, what we could have had, and who we could have been had we had that. That we can sit, two things can coexist. You can be relieved she's gone, devastated she's gone because she never repaired and she never took accountability and apologised. Devastated she's gone because you never gave her the full truth of what she did and who she was and how she affected you. And desperately, desperately sad, furiously angry with all those things too, and desperately sad that you never got the mother that you deserved, that you needed, that would have loved you in the way you needed to be loved. And all those things can exist at the same time, and they all are valid. None of them are bigger than the other, you know? And you do not need to kind of subscribe to the idea that if you're not feeling bereft at the loss of them, it makes you a terrible person rather. No.
No, I don't feel that. I think it's more the only what I never had, which I had started before she died anyway, but also kind of the I don't know what I was going to say.
You don't feel bereft, mourning the person that you didn't have.
There is a tiny bit of me that feels sorry for her.
Yeah. Of course there is. Because you're a human with empathy. And you, like your son actually, can see that she was a very broken person. Like there was a lot of wounding there and a lot of trauma there. You don't develop MPD out of the blue. I mean, it's not often I get to speak to someone whose parent is actually diagnosed. It's very rare for me. And, you know, I'm a little bit hesitant when using the MPD label without a diagnosis. And so there's a, you know, you don't get MPD out of the blue.
No.
There might be genetic factors, but it's largely thought to be environmental. And I've yet to hear of a case where there wasn't any trauma in childhood. So what your empathy shows is for that small child who suffered, that had to develop MPD in order to exist in the world. And that's desperately sad. That's so sad that somebody would need to develop those coping mechanisms. What is not okay is the lack of accountability, the perpetuating of abuse against you, and the enabling of your father's abuse against you too, and then all the other stuff, punishing you for it, the jealousy of you, the ownership, the manipulation, the lies, all of those things, not okay. But your empathy for her and the fact that she was in that mental state shows you and who you are and your character, that you're a good, compassionate, empathetic person. And that's valid. You know? Jada, before we wrap up, was there anything else that you needed me to answer?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
That's, well, my total pleasure. Thank you. But I just want to check in how you're feeling right now.
I'm actually feeling a bit relieved.
Oh, good, good. I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased to hear that. You seem surprised to be relieved.
Well, I don't know, but yeah. Yeah, no, it's been really helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure, total pleasure. Thank you for coming and talking and exploring that with me. You know, it was hard, and huge respect to you for doing that. So thank you. If you leave here and you've got questions for me that I haven't answered, by all means ping me an email and I will answer them. And there is a course on the Hub called How to Grieve the Parents You Never Had. And if you'd like access to it, I will by all means send you a login so that you can have a go and have a look at that and do it if you'd like to.
That'd be great. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Nudge me if I forget, because, you know, my brain and its reliability can be a bit unreliable. Jada, thank you so very, very much for sharing, for exploring, for being so brave and open and honest. And yeah, thank you very, very much. I guess.
Thank you.
My total pleasure. Well then, thank you everyone for listening. And as ever, all that remains to be said is take care. Bye.
Bye.